Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name's Kate if you're new. Happy to have you here. So it has been a long time since I have done any kind of regular wrap-up on this channel. I don't think that I really read enough, nor do I really have enough time to do a monthly wrap-up, but one thing that I do want to try to do this year is do a quarterly wrap-up. My reading has been pretty good this year so far, and let's get into it. So first, before I get into everything else that I read this quarter, to piggyback off of my last video, I want to talk about my Thrice readathon wrap-up. It kind of is exactly what I thought would happen, which is that I powered through the entire Black Sun trilogy. Now, technically, I did not finish book 3 until after the Thrice readathon had ended. I started the first book, Black Sun, on what was it? The 17th was the day that it started. And then I started Mirrored Heaven on the 31st, which was the day that it ended. Goddamn, man. This is a 5-star series. Absolutely. I fucking loved this series. I love stories about gods and reborn gods and like what that means when gods are real and have avatars on Earth. Oh, it was so good. However, I do have to admit, I made an embarrassing miscalculation with these. I have been saying that these are gay space for like several years, and they're just not. These are like pre-Columbian indigenous South American inspired fantasy. And somehow, I say somehow, I think I kind of know how, which was the combination of the titles, Black Sun, Fevered Star, Mirrored Heaven, and the fact that in like the opening flap of Black Sun, they don't actually give you a description. They just give you a scene where they're talking about ships. And so my brain took Black Sun, Fevered Star, Mirrored Heaven and talking about ships and went, oh, spaceships. And I had somehow convinced myself that this series was like indigenous response to Afrofuturism. And here's the thing. I still want that to exist. It's not this book, but I still want it to exist. I want an indigenous futurism. And if that exists, please tell me. I don't know that it does. So anyway, this is not what I thought it was. It was so fucking good though. Here's the problem, is that it's an entire trilogy that I just read in 2.5 weeks. So I don't know how to talk about this without spoiling the shit out of it. Here's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna just talk about Black Sun. Black Sun is told slightly non-linearly in that everything is leading up to the convergence, which we find out, I think, fairly quickly is a solar eclipse, like a total solar eclipse. This series has a big old cast of ensemble characters, but in book 1, there are only 3 POVs. So, POV number 1 is Serapio, a boy who is from this city of Tova that features in the map. Here it is. They have these beautiful maps, which again, this probably should have clued me into the fact that this was ocean ships and not fucking spaceships. I don't know, man. So Tova is up here. And then we have the city of Tova over here, which is like, so it's like in the middle of a river with all these different islands. And each clan is represented by a beast, and they all of these clans have giant representatives of these creatures. So the clans are Crow, Golden Eagle, Winged Serpent, and Water Strider, which is like a big bug. So yes, there are like giant water bugs. I love the animal companions in this, by the way. There's giant crows that have names and personalities and are like full characters in this series. It's so cool. So Serapio is the crow god reborn. He has been made to be by his mother. The crow people are very much subjugated in Tova because of some kind of religious thing that happened. I honestly can't remember the details now, but there was a big thing called the Night of Knives where a bunch of supposed priests went and murdered a bunch of crow people. There's also a whole thing about the gods, like the people in charge in Tova are the people of the sun god, like the sun priest, and then the crow is kind of the sun's nemesis. So there's like this whole aspect of that. So Serapio, crow god reborn, on a journey to Tova, has to get there on the day of the convergence, the solar eclipse. We'll figure out why later. The other person is Ziala, the sea captain, who is of a group called Teak, like an ethnic group called Teak, that are an entirely female society that live on floating islands in the sea that also have like a siren magical singing ability. And then our final person is Narampa, who is the current sun priestess of Tova. Oh yeah, I forgot about Coyote. Of course, because everybody forgets about Coyote. So the Maw down in here, it is this like canyon slum kind of area, which is called Coyote's Maw. And that is where she is from. And that is considered, like, as I said, the slums. So she by kind of sheer luck, managed to become the Sun Priest and like is now at the highest level. But people don't like that she's from the Maw. Her ascension was somewhat controversial. And now there are all kinds of people in her own political world that are scheming against her. Narampa is in Tova in this first book. Starts in a different city, like I think it's this one down here, Quicola, but she is bringing Serapio up to Tova. And then Serapio, we mostly get flashbacks of his whole training under different mentors. We don't get a ton of his POV that's like current, but he is this like blind holy hermit on a quest to Tova. It all culminates in the solar eclipse that kind of happens at the end of this first book and kicks off a whole bunch of shit in books 2 and 3. I misremembered, there's actually a fourth POV in this one, which is Okoa, who is the son of the matron of Carrion Crow tribe. In this very matriarchal society, the women kind of train in politics, the men train in defense and war. So he got sent away by his mom to a war college and gets called back when his mom has died and maybe was murdered. We're maybe gonna find out. This was a 5-star series for sure. It is very, very queer. Ziala is extremely bisexual. There is also a third gender that they mention is only in some areas, but it's definitely in Tova. We've got multiple types of relationships in here, including like queer woman and non-binary person, queer woman and probably queer man. I can't talk about it too much because again, it's an entire trilogy, but goddamn was it good. I really liked the ending too. I would not say that it's perfect. Some of the things have still like didn't 100% sit well with me, but I think was also probably intentional. But overall, goddamn, 5 stars. So that's what I did for the Trans Rights Readathon. For everything else that I read, I'm going to be going in kind of chronological order of when I read it. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is actually a duology that technically split December and January a little bit, which is Everina Maxwell's, I don't know if this has an overall title, but the first one is Winter's Orbit. This one I finished in December, and then Ocean's Echo, the follow-up, I finished in January. Both of these are queer space. They're in the same world, but they do take place on very different parts of the like solar system universe type thing that they've got going on, and they don't really seem that connected. So really it's more just kind of 2 different standalones. As I mentioned, they are both queer. They are both, what is it, Achillean? This one, Winter's Orbit, I will say I'd read this one already. This was a reread. I liked it, but the first time I read it, I completely forgot it. And the second time I read it, I kind of partially forgot it already. Like I read it in December and most of it's gone. I do remember liking it though. I think I gave this like 3.5, 4 stars. There was also some stuff that I liked about the writing in this. Our 2 main characters are forced into an arranged marriage, like an arranged political marriage. Like our main guy had a brother who was married and then the brother died. And so he has to marry his brother's old husband because they have like a whole political alliance thing going on. I forget the political details of it, but essentially it's an arranged marriage. And we're supposed to believe that his like new husband is like so quiet because he's grieving his old husband, but then when we're in his point of view, the way that he phrases things is so very specific that I immediately picked up on it and I was like, oh, the brother was abusive. That comes in more like subtly, and I did think that the way that she wove it together and like that reveal was pretty well done. I did clock it within the first like chapter, but I did really like their romance. I liked the political aspect, and yeah, most of it has kind of faded, but I liked it a lot. Now here's the thing with Ocean's Echo. This could have been a 5-star series or a 5-star book if she had just made a few different choices. And I'm not even saying that the choices that she made were wrong. It was that they did not work for me. I love empath shit. I love soul bond shit. I love telepathy between soul bond people. I love all of that. And they took that trope and made it something I wasn't supposed to root for in this book. And I didn't like that. One of the guys can read minds, and that is supposed to be like illegal, but he was born with it. And then there's a whole thing about like they can sync them to pilots so that they're like telepathically better at flying. Again, I don't remember the details, but there's a whole thing about like syncing minds and having like a telepathic mind connection. Yeah, I could have liked this one, but if what you're looking for is like empath sex and soul bonding, you're not going to get it. And that was what I wanted. So I was wildly disappointed by this book, even though it was actually like objectively pretty good. Subjectively, it did not give me what I wanted. So after that kind of disappointing affair, I decided to get back into something I knew I would like, and I reread the Six of Crows duology. I only have a physical copy of the first one. I read the second one physically, but I got it from the library. Part of my thing with these books is that the audiobooks, again, this is one of those things of it could have been great, and then you took it away. The audiobooks are like 80% perfect. Because it's a full cast narration, they have really good voices, like representative voices that feel right for the character. Most of them are pretty good. And then you get to book 2, and what the fuck was going on with Wyland's narrator? I don't understand. One, his Kaz voice, atrocious. I was listening to it, and it started because he's like the first main point of view character in Crooked Kingdom. And I started listening to it, and I was like, oh, this actually isn't as bad as I remember. Like, he's narrating Kaz, but Kaz's voice sounds fine, mostly. Maybe I was exaggerating this. And then there's a single line of dialogue in the second chapter where they describe Kaz's voice as like the characteristic rasp of an over-rosined bow. Now, I personally don't quite even know what that means, but apparently whoever that narrator was, the way that they interpreted that was to start talking like this. I don't know, man. I don't know. Where did that come from? Why did nobody stop him? Also, that narrator had a tendency, this was something I noticed a little bit across all the narrators, but it was particularly bad with Wyland's. He would read a sentence like he'd never read those words before. Like he had never put that thought together in English until he was actively reading it out on the page. And this wasn't just Wyland. This happened, I think, with Jesper's narrator too, which I loved. Jesper's actual voice. His voice was like honey. So the fact that like his accent wandered around, I didn't care. The fact that sometimes he read a sentence as if he'd never heard those words put in that order before, that kind of bugged me a little bit. So did I love overall rereading this series? Yes, I did. However, I could not do the audiobook for book 2. I had to switch to physical. I will say, I think doing it in physical copy made me less annoyed about all the time that she wastes setting up heists that don't happen. Six of Crows is technically one big heist where they're trying to get to the ice court. The Crooked Kingdom is kind of a lot of like little mini heists, but it was like every time they would fully explain what the plan was, you knew that that wasn't going to be the plan. That annoyed me a lot more when I was doing it on audiobook because I was like, this took so long to get through this plan and it's not even the actual plan. But reading it went by a lot faster, so it didn't annoy me as much actually this time. Now, I have an original like first edition copy of Six of Crows. So my version does actually have everybody's ages in it, as does the audiobook version. It seems a little weird that she like scrubbed everyone's ages out of the series. Like, I understand that a lot of people read this book and they went, Kaz is 18? No, he's not. And that's fair. I understand that impulse. But when the author agrees and goes back in and scrubs everything, like, there were a lot of themes about child soldiers in this book. And I do think it gets weakened if you take out all of their ages, even if their ages don't really make sense for what they're doing. Anyway, Six of Crows is so beloved on BookTube that I feel like I don't need to say much about it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. It, to me, never quite reaches 5-star range, but I do still really love this series. And at some point, I'm going to get a copy of Crooked Kingdom, especially now knowing how bad the audiobook for book 2 is. So I still love this series, even if I have some nitpicks about it. Next up on the list, I told you guys this was going to be my Don May book of the year. It's Thrice Married to Salted Fish. Book 2 came out in February or March, I forget now. I bought it and read it the same week. That's what it is. This series is very shut up and take my money, shut up and take my tears. Book 2 doesn't come out until June. Shut up and take my money. I love it so much. I am gonna cry with book 3. I just am. I told you about how like it's kind of Ice Princess, Black Cat, and like Sunny Golden Retriever. Now our Ice Princess, Black Cat spends so much of the first part of this volume quietly kind of devastated about the thing that happened at the end of book 1. But he's also like in a lot of denial about it because there's this possibility that it's not final. He might be coming back. And so, but like, he's so quietly devastated. So if what you're looking for in a main character is someone that's like completely composed on the outside and then like cracking to pieces on the inside so far down that they don't even know that that's what's happening, this one. I love it so much. And they're so cute. They're so cute in this second go around. I love them so much when he's the general. Book 3 is gonna hurt because it's not Twice Married to Salted Fish, it's Thrice. So we gotta get to number 3. This is a mean cover. I don't like it. Hey y'all, future editing Kate here, popping in to say that my dumbass, when I was making the notes for this video, forgot to actually check the reading spreadsheet to see if all of the physical books that I had in the stack were in fact everything that I read. And so wouldn't you know it, I completely forgot about the fact that I read Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. So this one I picked up while I was in the library for Crooked Kingdom. This was just on display in their new books section. And so I impulse rented it. The story opens with our main character, who is not a healer, but essentially got very, very interested in poisons, and so is a specialist in antidotes and poisons. She is just going about her day, testing different compounds, doing all of her chemistry shit. And the king suddenly shows up in her little shop and tells her that he has a job for her because his daughter, Snow, is slowly being poisoned. Yes, this is a Snow White retelling. No one can figure out how she's being poisoned or what the poison even is. None of the healers have had any idea. So he hires this poisoner to try to figure out what's going on. We also find out, as the king is hiring this poisoner, that his wife, the queen, who recently died because he killed her. And he killed her because she was attempting to cut out the heart of his other daughter, Rose, who unfortunately is also obviously dead. So we've got all this kind of mystery surrounding the royal family, surrounding what's happening with Snow, and she goes off to the capital. When she gets there, of course, things are not always what they seem, and there might be some kind of spooky magic stuff happening, especially when she finds out where the poison is actually coming from. I will say, overall, I think I wanted to like this one a little bit more than I actually ended up liking it. I enjoyed the magic and the world building. There's this whole like mirror world, and I found the rules of that really cool and interesting. I also really enjoyed the animal companions in this book. There is a extraordinarily dumb rooster, as well as a one-eyed talking cat. The one-eyed talking cat did feel a tiny bit cliche, in the sense of like, oh, weird, there's a fairy tale retelling and there's a one-eyed snarky cat that's mentoring our heroine. Groundbreaking. But I do think that the way that it was done was very fun. I really enjoyed the cat character. And I'm also just a sucker for good animal companions in general. That's rarely something that I'm going to complain about. I did also find the romance in this one enjoyable. If you read her paladin romances, it's very much in the same kind of vein. The ways in which this book didn't quite work for me, where I think one was the pacing. It felt really weird and slow. We don't actually even get to the mirror world until I think at least halfway through the book. I figured out a lot of stuff faster than the main character did. And there's even a moment, and the cat even says something about like, wow, you're acting really stupid about this. And she's just like, yeah, I guess I am. And I'm just like, as the reader, watching a heroine be stupid about magic is not fun for me. It also just felt a little bit like her stupidity was only there to serve the plot, like in the pacing of the plot. Like if she was able to figure things out as quickly as the reader was figuring things out, the book would be a lot shorter. The problem is maybe the book should have been shorter, because I spent a lot of time being frustrated at the main character for not figuring things out. Even when they were spelled out for her, she would still just doubt them. And it drove me a little bit insane. Also, I just didn't find the villain very compelling. She doesn't even show up until like 80%, 90% of the way through the book. And so overall, I think I gave this like a 3.5. I expected this to be like a 4.5 book, but I just couldn't rate it that high. So do I still recommend this book? Overall, yeah, I would just say go in with your expectations reasonable. If you really like T. Kingfisher and you really like fairy tale retellings, this is definitely going to be up your alley. To me, it just didn't quite work though. But anyway, that's going to be it for Hemlock and Silver. Back to your regularly scheduled video. So the last books that I've read for this first quarter were Memory Called Empire, Desolation Called Peace. God damn, I loved these so much. I knew I was going to. Like, it's a lesbian in space dealing with being an ambassador and language and translation and murder mysteries, and all of that shit is right up my alley. So goddamn, did I know I was going to like this, but I did not know how much I was going to fucking love this. Book 1, Memory Called Empire, very much political machinations, murder mystery, kind of trying to stop a war. But like, so our main character, Mahit, is from like a space station civilization that is a total population of about 30,000 people. So in order to protect their knowledge and memories, they have this technology called imago chips, which essentially is you can download your memories and consciousness onto essentially a microchip that can get embedded into the brain of another person. And so what this does is create like a hybrid mind that eventually will kind of settle in. So at first it is like having another person's consciousness in your brain, but like over many, many years, they kind of soften into the background and kind of just become like muscle memory, essentially. So our main character, Mahit, is being sent to this big empire called the Teixkalanli Empire that technically has not invaded the station yet. But there's kind of this implication of if we don't ambassador real good, they're gonna. And there's also the Teixkalanli culture is so wrapped up in literature and illusions. Like, if you can't make your point by referencing 3 different classical poems, you didn't make your point. Which means that if you didn't grow up in the Teixkalanli Empire reading all of their literature from birth, they kind of don't consider you a person. There was also so much stuff in here about language that I could eat up with a spoon. Stuff like the word for city being the same as the word for world, being the same as the word for empire. So there is no word for like not here, like not of the empire. That's just not a word. And our main character, Mahit, is going to this Teixkalanli Empire with an imago chip of the previous ambassador, but the imago chip of the previous ambassador is about 10 years old because he hasn't come back in 10 years and updated it. And she gets there, finds out the ambassador is dead, and is essentially trying to solve a murder with a younger consciousness of the person that was murdered. So both Mahit and Iskander, the previous ambassador, who is now in Red, are ambassadors because they love Teixkalan. They love the language. They love the works of literature. So like there's a moment where she comments on the fact that in her own head, when she's talking with Iskander, they are both stationers and they are not speaking stationer. They are speaking Teixkalanli. Fuck, it gets me so good. Then there is a whole thing in book 2, where now we're dealing with non-human aliens. How do they have language? Do they have language? Like, oh God, it's so good. I can't talk about book 2, obviously, because spoilers, but holy shit, the stuff that it does with language, with what makes a person a person. I ate this up with a spoon. I think I finished both of these in like a week. If she ever decides to return to this universe, I would read 8 more books set in this world. I think that this duology does incredible things and ends really satisfyingly. And it's not that I think that she needs to write more, but if she ever does, I will be there. I mean, also, this was a debut. This is not fair to be a debut. It's so good. So yeah, if she writes more, I will obviously be there with bells on because holy fuck. Arkady, Martine, you have good shit to say. I like it. Okay. So that is everything that I have read in this first quarter of the month, January through March. Although I guess I slightly cheated. As for what I'm reading now, I finished the Black Sun trilogy April 4th, 5th, something like that. And then was like, what am I going to read next? And the thing that actually sparked and that I ended up like wanting to read next was The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. So I started it. I got like maybe a chapter in, and then I went, ooh, I've got some library books that I have checked out that maybe I should read first before I read a book that's been sitting on my shelf for 4 years. So the books that I had currently checked out were Blood Over Brighthaven and We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. So I started Blood Over Brighthaven yesterday morning, and then yesterday evening, I finished Blood Over Brighthaven. So I'm going to talk about this more in my next quarterly wrap-up. It was really good. Absolute horror show of an opening scene. God damn, that really set the tone for that a really quick whiplash into like university politics. If you read it, you know, but goddamn, good. Good. What the fuck, though? I do need to read We Hunt the Flame before this is due back at the end of the month. I am also, though, I finished Blood Over Brighthaven and I went, okay, I read 1. Time to get back to Jasmine Throne. So I'm only, a little bit into book 1. I'm enjoying it so far. What actually got me to read it was Sam from Thoughts on Tomes, I think, putting it in a section of plant body horror shit. No one told me that this has like a plant disease curse in it. I really like the kind of plant body horror, plants overtaking a body kind of thing. Nature, like angry forest, nature reclaiming. I love all that kind of stuff. So I do have those. And also I need to finish We Hunt the Flame by the end of the month. I mentioned this one in, I think my yearly TBR video. I've just been struggling with the format because I was getting it on ebook from the library and I tried that and I just don't like ebooks. I don't like reading on my phone. And then I tried it on audiobook through the library and honestly that did work better. I just so rarely listen to audiobooks that I wasn't making any progress on it. So I got it physically from the library. I did check and they only have book 1 physically. They don't own the second one, which is really annoying to me, but I'm going to try to make it through anyway. But I think this one is going to probably wait until after the Jasmine Throne series. Because that one's gay. And this one's not. It seems good so far, but it's not gay. So I'm probably just going to focus on Jasmine Throne first. Sue me. So that's what I've managed to read this past quarter. That's what's on my immediate TBR. Let me know how your reading year has been going so far. If you have any goals, are you on track to reach them, etc. Or if that's too much work, you can just say hi in the comments. But either way, I will see you guys very soon with another video. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.